They say if you stand quietly enough at Caswell Park, just as the sun dips below the Smoky Mountains, you can still hear the distant thunder of a fastball and the slide into second, over the roar of a city that recognized true greatness when they saw it. This is Giant Echoes, a journey into the soul of Knoxville's baseball past. Today, we're dusting off the archives and shining a light onto diamonds in the Scruff, the men who played baseball with all their heart, because they had a lot to lose and so much more to prove. Today, we'll be talking about baseball and Knoxville's historic past. So pull up a seat, because you're on deck. If you stood on the ridge above the Clinch River in the summer of 1943 and looked to the northwest, you would see something that had no right to exist. A city, rising from red Tennessee clay like a fever dream. A place with no name on any public map, no listing in any phone book, no entry in any census that a civilian could read. They called it the Secret City. We know it today as Oak Ridge. In 1 year, 75,000 people had moved onto 60,000 acres of confiscated farmland in the Bear Creek Valley. By 1945, Oak Ridge was the fifth largest city in Tennessee, burning more electricity than the entire city of Boston, and almost no one in America knew it existed. Behind miles of chain link and barbed wire fence, workers in 3 rotating shifts operated massive windowless plants, the X-10, the K-25, the Y-12. They moved materials they couldn't name. They watched dials they couldn't explain. If you asked what they did, they'd shrug and say something vague like, "I put the holes in the donuts." They were building an atomic bomb. They just didn't know it yet. But today's story isn't a story about the bomb. It's a story about what happened when the shift whistle blew, about the men who walked off those factory floors, crossed into the segregated section of the secret city called Scarborough, and laced up their cleats. This is the story of the Oak Ridge Black Bombers. But in order to understand the bombers, you need to understand the fence. In Oak Ridge, the fence wasn't just a security measure. It was a sort of coded message, a set of rules about who you were and where you belonged. Black workers were housed in the Scarborough hutments, plywood and tar paper quarters, no running water, shared outhouses, military police at every gate. They had been recruited from across the South, carpenters, laborers, pipe fitters, told they were doing their patriotic duty, and they were. They were building the weapon that would end the war. They just had to do it from behind a separate fence. When the Black Bombers took shape as a team, they faced an obstacle unlike anything in the history of professional sport. Their roster was split down the middle, literally, by the United States government. Half the players were inside men, security clearances, 12-hour shifts, no movement without official orders. The other half were outside men, living in the surrounding counties, coming in through the gate on game day. Think about what that means. No practice, no drills, no film sessions. The Yankees had spring training. The Homestead Grays had batting practice. The Black Bombers had Sunday afternoon, and whatever God gave them. They didn't have a playbook, they had an intuition. A team of near strangers who became something extraordinary the moment the umpire said, "Play ball." The man they called Fireball. In the world beyond the fence, the Negro Leagues were the highest stage a black ball player could reach. A circuit of extraordinary talent playing in the shadow of a national pastime that refused to let them through the front door. Jackie Robinson had broken the color line in 1947, but the league still burned bright. Fireball Williams was good enough to play on that stage, and he proved it. On a summer night in 1957, Williams stood on the mound at Kaminsky Park in Chicago. 30,000 fans packed the grandstands. The lights turned the infield white. It was the East-West All-Star Game, the crown jewel of Negro Leagues baseball, an annual spectacle that routinely drew larger crowds than the Major League All-Star Game itself. Eugene Fireball Williams, who had honed his game on a segregated diamond in a secret Tennessee city, was the winning pitcher that night. From the red clay of Scarborough to Kaminsky Park, 30,000 people on their feet, the boy from behind the fence, under the lights. But here's the part of the story that matters most. After the bright lights of Memphis, after Kaminsky Park, after all-star selections and the roar of tens of thousands, Eugene Williams came home. He chose Oak Ridge. For years after his playing days, Williams worked with young people across Oak Ridge, coaching youth baseball, speaking at schools, running clinics throughout Tennessee and Alabama. He gave them what the secret city had once tried to take from men like him: dignity, discipline, and a reason to believe the game was theirs too. The greatest energy that ever came out of Oak Ridge, Tennessee wasn't stored in a reactor. It was held in the hands of men who knew what it meant to build something, and chose to give it away. In 1945, the secret city was a place of profound contradictions. Black men were helping build the most advanced technology in human history, and going home each night to tar paper hutments with no running water. When the Black Bombers stepped onto that diamond, they weren't just playing baseball. They were the Black Bombers, in a city that was literally building a bomb. Every home run was a refusal. Every stolen base was a sprint toward the dignity that Jim Crow tried to deny them. They outran the shadow of the one thing they were helping to build. They played for the men in the hutments who had nothing else to cheer for. They proved that excellence doesn't need a security clearance. And long after the fence came down, long after the secret city became a suburb and the plants became museums, the echoes of those games still carry across the Clinch River Valley. Next time someone tells you the history of the Manhattan Project, remind them that history wasn't only written in laboratories. Some of it was written in the dust of a ball field, by men who knew that even behind a fence you can still hit one over the wire. Now the sun is set on the park, but the echoes of our past never fade. So keep searching for those diamonds in the scruff. So on behalf of the Knoxville Smokies baseball team and Society for American Baseball Research historian Ed Ripley, we would like to thank you for your time, and we hope to meet you here again for Giant Echoes, stories of the Knoxville Negro Leagues.